Long ago, in the beautiful kingdom of Hyrule, surrounded by mountains and forests, legends told of an omnipotent and omniscient golden power that resided in a hidden land. Many people aggressively sought to enter the hidden golden land, but no one ever returned. One day, evil power began to flow from the golden land, so the king commanded 7 wise men to seal the gate to the land of the golden power. That seal should have remained for all time. But when these events were obscured by the mists of time and became legend, a mysterious wizard known as Agna came to Hyrule to release the seal. He eliminated the good king of Hyrule. Through evil magic, he began to make descendants of the 7 wise men vanish, one after another. And the time of destiny for Princess Zelda is drawing near. This is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Hello everybody, and welcome back to my next playthrough of the Legend of Zelda series, A Link to the Past. As you can see, I have played a little bit of this game, but I have not gotten to the final dungeon or defeated Ganon at this point. I just did this so I can get like a rough estimate of what I should expect into this game, and to highlight certain aspects of it. And there's also a lot of dialogue and story to this game, so I'm not going to read it all per se. I'm just going to give a rough summary. So in the very beginning, Link hears premonitions of Zelda talking to him while he's sleeping. When he awakes, his uncle, not his father, his uncle is the one who tells him to stay in bed while he goes to explore it. Of course, Link ignores him, takes the lantern in the chest, and makes his way to the castle. He moves over to the right side over here, where he finds a hidden passageway. After navigating it, he finds his uncle on the verge of death. But with his last breath, he takes his sword and shield and teaches Link the hidden move of his ancestors, the spin attack. So this is the orange story of Link's recovery move in Smash Brothers. Also, one really weird thing about this is the lantern. It is not like an oil-based lantern like in other Zelda games. It is a magic-based lantern, and you can only use it if you have magic in your magic meter. Also, it's kind of weird that Link is born with a magic meter. Kind of shows you like how much more powerful this Link is compared to the other ones. It's very interesting. Anyway, after traversing parts of the Hyrule Castle, Link comes across a prisoner, but it isn't just any ordinary prisoner. It is the Princess of Hyrule herself, Zelda. She explains to him about the wizard and how he must be able to go help her. So, after traversing the castle, making his way all the way back up, Zelda explains to Link that there's a secret passage behind the throne room over here, and that if you're able to push it from the side, there's more to this castle than meets the eye. After traversing the secret passage, Link and Zelda end up in a sanctuary. Finally, Princess Zelda is safe from the evil clutches of the wizard. Zelda, uneasy about the wizard, tells Link of a legend of a mystical sword that is sure to help him defeat the wizard, since she has a feeling the wizard is more than meets the eye. This is the tale of Link's beginning quest in order to retrieve the Master Sword and save Hyrule. Wow, what a very interesting very first story here. Now, I didn't get to mention it while I was doing my little narration thing, but I really do like how this is like the beginning of tons of Legend of Zelda tropes we see later on. This is the beginning of how what we see is a standard Zelda formula of how dungeons are laid out, monsters we meet, and how we find different dungeon items that we can actually use in the overworld and not in just BS situations. And look at that, and they had an escort mission where it's not total BS. Wow, a very first, and I think it's the last of its kind, because I feel like from this point on there are no escort missions that are just as seamless and unnoticeable as that one. But other than that, we make it into town over here. We buy this little bottle here. And very interesting thing, if you talk to random townsfolk out in the town, some of them believe the legends are, or what they've been told I should say, about how we kidnapped Zelda. Because technically, we did abduct her from the castle, but it was to save her. But the knights are spreading rumors about us that we're the evil person. So now more soldiers and citizens are distrusting of us. But only the ones that are out and about. The ones in their houses, they're completely fine. Which I find kind of hilarious. That people are just so dormant and kept inside their houses that they don't even know that we're technically a criminal. While the ones outside the houses hear everything. That's actually kind of funny. Well, anyways, after all that, we'll head on over to our very first dungeon. Also, this is also another thing that they brought back later on, is that I feel like not a lot of Zelda games do this actually, is that we need 3 medallions, or 3 gems to say, in order to prove that we're worthy of the Master Sword. Like, I feel like not every Zelda game does this anymore, which I really want to hear or see an explanation as to why. Because I think this is the first, this is the first Zelda game to introduce the 3 gem system of wind, fire, and wisdom. Well, I should say courage, fire, now courage, power, and wisdom, but represented, you know, in the green, red, and blue gems, respectively. And funny enough, like, I played Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds first, before this game, and just seeing all these characters and this overworld reused in that game, actually sends me with like a really good hope and like transversing different, like not every kingdom in Hyrule or game has to be like set in different places or times, but if they're doing this whole timeline diverging thing, it's kind of cool that 2 different versions of Hyrule ended up the same, with same characters, same items and all that stuff, but the story plays out a lot differently. Like, it's just very interesting. Well, anyway, we make our way to the very first dungeon after we talk to the old man of the shrine over there. And this first dungeon, honestly, it's a pretty good first dungeon. Like, it's pretty simple, it's interesting. Also, I just noticed a detail while I was rewatching and editing this video. The very first dungeon's first rooms. I'll point it out later on when we get to it. But the people who know, they know. But also just massive improvements in the dungeon making compared to other games, because look, now we have multiple floors within the dungeons itself, within each room as well, and you can see both high and low. It's actually a really good use of the sprite work here. It's like, and the layout, it's just so good. And oh yeah, if you find these weird little triangle things on the walls, apparently one of the old man that you talk to can communicate with you telepathically if you go to that stone. Very weird they just didn't make it a sign or something, but I guess it's so that each dungeon doesn't have like a stupid sign that tells you how to solve it. It's actually some old man to give you hints who's wise enough to know about these dungeons. Honestly, pretty good. Pretty good lore-wise reason on how to give you in-game hints in the dungeon. Actually, really nice of them, now that I think about it. And oh yeah, here's one thing about this game that doesn't reappear in other games, is the Master Key, or the Big Key system. To where the Big Key not only allows you to face the final boss, but it also allows you to open up these big-ass chests, which usually has the dungeon item in it too. So you really gotta make sure you find this in each dungeon before you try to do anything else. Also, here's a fun little thing. If you go over here and you hop down, you can actually enter that vase right before the final boss. And inside of it, it's usually a bunch of fairies that help you give a nice full heal before you go in there. And if you have bottles in the net already, then you can get a fairy real early on, so you don't have to worry about dying already. I, of course, did not get the net, mainly just because I think I forgot about it. I thought I picked it up, but I guess I didn't. But anyways, we just make it on. We head over here. And like I said, these rooms already, even though this is the first dungeon, they don't pull punches. They really want you to experience the nice gravity of these dungeons real early on. And I like that, how this dungeon is just full of metal balls that are designed to run you over. And that the dungeon boss is 6 enemies all at once. It really shows you, like, they definitely improved on the bosses in this game compared to the last one. The only thing that's annoying about this one is just that a lot of these things take so many hits to kill, and you have to kill each individual one separately. So it can just get a bit tedious at times. And with that, after defeating the boss, we finally get the first of our quest items, the Pendant of Courage. It's actually pretty cool, pretty cool. Alright, and after receiving the pendant, we go back to the old man. He tells us about a little legend about how these pendants and things came to creation. It was because the Knights of Hyrule placed them in order as like a little test or a guardsmanship. And since he believes we're descendants of the Knights because of all the things we've done already, he gives us a new item called the Pegasus Shoes, which gives Link the ability to dash attack, which is such a nice addition to this game, that Link can actually move faster. Granted, you can only move faster in a straight line, but hey, any speed movement is greatly appreciated, especially for Link. He desperately needs it, as much speed as he can get. Oh yeah, and if you ever get lost or confused on what to do next, you can just open up the map, and usually it tells you all the spaces that are of interest to you, as well as what item they hold there. So right there you can see one of them holds the two next pendants that we need, as well as the location of the Master Sword, which is really nice. Also, I will make a note of this now, is I'm going to try to keep track of all the fairy designs to use in games like this, because the fairy designs in Zelda games, they're something, alright. And it's nice to see like what kind of consistency and how they made them look in each game. Because some of them, I feel like they hold ties or clues to what's been going on throughout the kingdoms. Like this one's very, like the very first fairies we meet here in Link to the Past, they're very like, I don't want to say tamed, but they're really elegant. That's it. They're really elegant, beautiful, very caring as well. So that's very interesting. Alright, enough of that. Now we go over to this library over here. We need to get this book. This book is actually like a translation book that lets you read Ancient Hylian, I believe. And that's actually very interesting that the legend that was told in the beginning of this game has evolved point past to a whole new language at this point. And this book is the only way to translate whatever Ancient Hylian is left out in the overworld. Now that is actually a really cool world building, and I really enjoy that little touch. And with that book, we can finally read this little plaque right here that just tells us to pray to God for us. And when we do, these statues move so we can finally enter Dungeon 2. And I'm also really glad that that book actually sticks around throughout the entire journey. Like, this isn't the only place where you get to use it, which I find very nice. The items get reused purpose, especially like a dictionary. Oh, that's so nice. Alright, and this dungeon, the common enemies on this one is a repeated enemy, those spinning things again. Because I do remember in my last one I made a point about those things. And I just want to point them out now. I really do feel like these spinny things are like one of Ganon's favorites, because we see them like all the time in Legend of Zelda games. Also, I've been saying spinny things for so long, I probably should look up to see the actual names of these things. Well, anyways, we find the Titan mitts right here. Thank you, thank you. After that, we can actually start moving small rocks. Now, this is interesting about this dungeon. In order to progress, you actually have to leave the dungeon through a different area, then re-enter it from another area that's blocked off by the rocks. Now, I find that very interesting because most of the games, the dungeons are all kind of construed into one building, but I like how this one just goes in and out of the buildings a lot of times. Really makes you feel like they utilize the whole area and the overworld to its peak in both its instances. Alright, and after traveling that bit of a quota, we make it to the final boss. And this one is not as great as the other one. This one is not that great. All of this is just 3 earthworms that just come up periodically. You can just spin attack whenever they first pop their heads, and they're pretty much no issue. But with that, we get the Pendant of Wisdom. Another pendant down. And now we move on. What's also a really nice touch about in this game is that like how a lot of the designs for the people of the woods, they look almost exactly like you. It kind of makes you feel like you're not alone in this world, that you're not like the only person of this type of color scheme and all that. Kind of makes you feel like you actually belong to a society or a group of people. Well, anyway, after meeting up with those little lumberjacks that look exactly like you, we head over to this cave over here where we find an old man who's lost in it, and he's just trying to get up the mountain. So we just guide him through here. We get him into this little hut over here. He gives us a mirror. It's actually really important. The hut is now just like a Pokemon health center. So now we can just enter there whenever we need a full heal up the mountain. Anyway, after dodging all these boulders and going up the stairs over here, we make it to this little area over here, and we find a curious blue square. And when we step upon it, we actually get warped into the other world, and we're turned into a rabbit. Now this is very interesting because once you're in an animal form, you actually become very useless. Like you cannot use any items, use your sword, or anything. The only thing you can do in this form currently is just move around. Well, another interesting thing about that is that once we're in because that whole other world is supposed to be like the circuit realm. So are there just points in Hyrule just that can randomly teleport you into the circuit realm? Or is that whole thing just because of Ganon and that part of his dark influence that seeps into our world? Just for lore reasons why, I believe they're like the evidence of Ganon's dark secretions that allow you to transport between worlds. But I like to believe, but just having random points to transfer you into the circuit realm cannot be out of the realm of possibility for Legend of Zelda game rules, I should say. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's just make it up the tower a little bit. See the final boss. It's just some bigger things of the common enemies here, which are just super annoying. And what's also weird is that even though this guy does a lot of damage to you, the most annoying part of this fight is just getting falling down the stupid holes and have to reclimb another floor just to face him again. It's really annoying. But after defeating the final boss, we get the Pendant of Power. With that, we get all three things we need to unlock the Master Sword. And so let's quickly go do that. Actually, I just went back in there, and yeah, that chest item is actually really important. It's the pearl that allows you to stay in your human form when you go into the Dark World. It's actually really important that you get this. And the main reason why I think I've been missing it was because I keep going on the bottom half of the square instead of the top half of the square, which is kind of stupid, but hey, it is what it is. So grab the pearl, make sure you get it. Top half of the square. That's how you get it. Alright, and after that little mishap, we just make our way to the woods over here. And there are two things that you should get. One, you should definitely get this mushroom. It's going to become very important later on. It is an optional thing, so you don't necessarily need it. And of course, the Master Sword. But what I like about this Lost Woods is that they have fake Master Swords placed all around the area over here. It's a way to keep intruders out of the way. But it's also weird that like this, even though this is like we want to say it's the Lost Woods, we really think this is just like the Kokoria Forest, if anything, because the paths in here aren't that confusing, very memorizable, and you don't restart when you lose it. Anyway, but just navigating your way to the top left over there. It's a nice little poem. To show that the Master Sword is destined for the Knights of Hyrule. And now that we have the Master Sword in our hands, Sorasha tells us that we can actually use the sword to cut through the evil barrier that's right in front of Hyrule Castle's final entrance door up there. Which is actually really cool. So we make our way right up there. Oh yeah, and if you try to go back to the sanctuary where it last left Zelda, it shows us that Zelda's actually got kidnapped again by the evil wizard, and he's killed the priest there. So now everything is just going downhill from here, so it kind of forces you into the castle at this point. But before we go into the castle, I actually really want to go up here to the top right, interact with the Zoras over here, because you definitely need what they have to offer up there. What do they have, you might ask? Well, they have the awesome ability to let you swim. But unfortunately, I am a few rupees short. So let me grind up for a little bit and get back up there. And by grinding, of course, going over here and going to the gamble shop and abusing the save states of Nintendo Switch Online. Let's go! Alright, and now that we have the brand new flippers, we can actually go over here into this waterfall that's right before the Zora domain, and we can start throwing items in there to have this nice, beautiful fairy upgrade some items for us. What you want to upgrade are the boomerang, I believe the bow, and the shield, if I remember correctly. Nope, it's just the boomerang and the shield for this one. Which I find very interesting, because I think I did find this in my first playthrough, but I didn't know it only required 2 specific items for to upgrade. Like, it just feels kind of weird. It's just random items and not all the items that you can upgrade. It kind of just makes it a little bit convoluted, especially when you try it out the first time and nothing happens. Like, huh, then what's the point of it, you know? And then there's also the uncertainty that once you throw something in, you don't always get it back. We can finally make it back into Hyrule Castle, cut through this electricity bar here, deal with like a whole small little boss rush. Not really a boss rush, just a whole bunch of enemy rush type of things here. Another interesting thing, another good thing that they did in this game is that they made Hyrule Castle feel like an actual castle. Like, there's so many layers and floors to this building that it really does feel like it's meant for the Royal of Hyrule, you know? And it's kind of messed up that once you make it to the very top of it, Agatha says, "Ah, I've been waiting for you, so I can kill her right in front of your eyes." Yes. Then he just backs off into the back rooms over there, where we do a nice little boss fight with him. And I find this one just a bit annoying, just because there's only one attack that you can actually do to do damage to him, and that's when he does his colorful ball magic, and not the multi-ball one or the lightning one, but just like the straight ball one, which I find just kind of dumb. I mean, cool, it's like a reference to Ganon's volley, which is a classic Zelda thing, but just because he has other attacks that look exactly the same, it kind of puts a damper on all that stuff. Well, anyway, after defeating him, on his last breath, he sends us over into the Dark World, where we get a nice little dialogue about all the bad things that are happening into this world, what this place means, all telepathy through us in our heads, and what we can do to save it. So now, at the top of the hill, Link now must go to the 7 dungeons here and free the 7 wise men's descendants, which are now the 7 maidens, I should say. And the first one that we go to is the one here in the over here, just to the right of the Dark World. Just right of the giant golden pyramid, where we travel a whole bunch of mazes and stuff like that to get there. And these mazes are just really fucking annoying, just because you can't see where the path is. Now this one definitely just feels like complete nonsense and BS. But along our travels, you find a little monkey friend. But in order to keep him around, is you do need him in order to open up the entrance to the temple. You need a good amount of rupees, and the number of rupees you need is 110. So literally, before you even get to the Dark World and all that, you need a grand total of 610 rupees collected in order to get both the Zora flippers and the monkey. Okay, now that we have the right amount of funds, now we can go back to the Dark World and go talk to that monkey to unlock the gate. And oh boy, you really don't want to backtrack at this point because... And here's the thing I wanted to show you, like how this dungeon is so much more complete and open than the first dungeon. I mean, the beginning room is exactly the same, but the two rooms over there that were dead ends are actually now have different rooms in it now. I find that really neat. It really just shows like how this world is pretty much like a reflection of Hyrule, but just different enough to keep you thinking. Oh yeah, this dungeon is unique because it kind of utilizes the bow and arrow a lot more than other dungeons. It also has these cool statues that where if you shoot in the eye, something else would happen, but then you just kind of get paranoid that you do that with every statue. Kind of misinterprets a little bit, you know? Or sets you up in a way of thinking, you know? Oh yeah, and I also really like how this locked room is definitely a reflection of one of Hyrule Castle's room over there. But as we later on see, I think they kind of repeat this pattern quite a few times actually. Oh yeah, one major thing, this dungeon loves to be tricky. To where in the very first room over here, you gotta make sure you fall off both sides over here. First on the hole that you blew up with the bomb over here, and then just after you collect the treasure chest, just hop off to the right. You have to do that both times in order to get all the keys for this dungeon. And after you gather the big key from the basement over there, you can finally unlock this chest, and inside is the Great Hammer. And this hammer is actually super important, not only for just this dungeon to deal with these stupid little craftings, but also because it's one of the very best tools that they use in the overworld to block off paths to different areas. So getting this is 100% necessary. And also the hammer, these stupid little smiling face things now, you can just hammer them down. It's kind of funny. And we find the dungeon boss over here, and this actually looks really cool. He is a bit annoying though, just because of how big he is and how small the room is. But it's a fun little challenge though. And you just gotta make sure you pay attention to his tail, because if you misinterpret his tail, then it's definitely gonna ambush you. Plus his fireballs can be really annoying too if you don't know the pattern when they shoot out. And there we go, after a quick little battle, we get a nice little gem. And we get to read dialogue from one of the maidens that gives us incredible lore hints. So let's start reading. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. This world used to be the Golden Land, where the Triforce was hidden, but because of Ganon, the boss of thieves, wished it the world was transformed. I'm sure he's intending to conquer even our light world after building his power here. He's trying to open a larger gate between the worlds near the castle using our powers. But the gate is not open completely yet. If we 7 maidens come together, we can break the barrier around Ganon's hut. I will tell you where the other girls are held. I believe you will destroy Ganon. I will return to my original form at that time. Yes, I do understand. And yet, I find that very interesting, that this whole place used to be considered the Golden Land, aka the Sacred Realm, and it was all transformed into what we see now. That's very interesting. And this isn't the first time this got mentioned too. I believe it also gets mentioned in Ocarina for a bit too. But the whole Sacred Realm gets transformed into whatever the reflection of the person who wished it. That is very interesting. But what's also interesting about this one though, is that it also seemed to trap Ganon within his own wishes kind of thing. So it's kind of like a monkey's paw kind of deal. However, he's using this place to train up and become stronger in order to break out into the Hyrule once again. Again, this is very interesting, and this is just the first one too. I wonder what else this game has in store. Let's find out. Well, how was that for our first dungeon? It was actually a pretty cool dungeon. Lots of lore exploration, really cool puzzles, a monkey pal. They literally got everything, and we just started. Let's continue on. And now to tell you about the only annoying thing about this game is that there's like a very limited amount of places to where you can actually transform, or not transform, to go back into the Dark Realm. And finding those places within this game can be a bit irritating at times, especially if you're doing this blind. So I'm going to show you my favorite spot in order to get into the Dark Realm, which is located just north of Kakariko Village, but you do need the hammer power-up. And since we're here, let's might as well do this dungeon right here. I believe the reward for the town dungeon is actually quite useful. Even though we're not supposed to do it till later, I like doing it right now. That way more paths in the overworld will just open up to us. What item upgrade am I talking about? Well, we're about to find out. This dungeon it's a bit lacking in comparison to the other one. It really just feels like it's just 4 giant squares, but with like weird intertwining rooms and all that stuff. I don't know, I feel like the beginning part of this dungeon has always just been very lazy. However, the ending of it is actually really cool. So let's just skip around and see what happens. Oh yeah, and one thing to note, beware of those glowing light balls. For whatever reason, these glowing light balls transform you back to the Dark World's original state. But it's only temporary. But even still, just having your sword stripped away from you, as well as not being able to use any items, can be a huge hindrance, especially if you're in the middle of a fight against so many enemies. So definitely keep an eye out for that. You can outrun them, which is really nice, so definitely try to keep that in mind. Over here to the left a bit, you actually find the upgraded mittens. So now Link can definitely lift up those blocks now. But it's weird that you could do it before you actually get this item upgrade. I feel like they could have designed that part of the room better, but who am I to judge? And so what you have to do is, after collecting the mittens over there, you come over here into the actual boss's room. There's actually an open window there, and if you pull the lady right there, it actually reveals the true identity of the boss, which is just like a red-faced mage. It's actually pretty cool. And what's also pretty cool is that mid-fight, it actually loses its head, and not just one head, but multiple heads, I should say. And it becomes like a straight-up bullet hell. It's actually pretty cool, and actually a bit difficult. But with that, we've finished the second dungeon in no time flat, and we get some more lore. So let's read up on that. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. As the wise men sealed the way of the Dark World, the Knights of Hyrule defended them from the attack of the evil monsters. I heard that the Knights of Hyrule were nearly wiped out in that battle. You are perhaps the last one to carry on the bloodline of the Knights. It is ironic that the last one in the line has the potential to become the hero of the legend. Surely you can destroy Ganon. Do you understand? Yes. So pretty much, the imprisoning war at the very beginning of the game, the sages were all being protected by the Royal Knights of Hyrule, or the original Knights of Hyrule, and almost all of them got wiped out, except for Link and his uncle. And she's saying it's very coincidental that the ones to be saved had the potential to become the true hero that Hyrule needs. Very interesting. It all just points in the direction of fate, and how everything's actually orchestrated to be as it is. Anyway, with another nice little bit of lore discovered and attracted, we now have the Titansmith, and with that we can actually start upgrading our Master Sword. What you want to do is quickly go down here, go save this little frog from the darkness, get transported into the light world while you're in this little area, and the little frog gets transformed into a little gnome. It's very interesting. It's also caused to wonder, like, how did he get into the Dark World? Did he also get into that little place up above? Well, anyways, once we save him, you just have to exit and re-enter, pay him 10 rupees, and he'll get to work on your Master Sword. Alright, and after a little bit, we come back and we grab the Master Sword, and now it's a shiny little cheese blade. I mean, look how brightly orange it is now. It's a little off-putting, but now it does double damage. It's actually pretty cool. And it goes to show that this Link is actually able to take care of his Master Sword, unlike a certain other Link. But to be fair, the Master Sword in this game is completely brand new. Well, anyway, enough of that little rambling. We actually come over here to the wizard shop over here. We actually pick up the nice gift that she leaves behind, which is magic powder. Now this powder is actually really helpful, especially in dungeons in the Dark World, because what it does is not only in certain situations does it like help you upgrade some of your item stuff, but you can actually use it for combat against certain enemies, and actually rewards you greatly for thinking about outside the box for it. Which ones am I talking about? Well, it's this one right here. Yep, these little skull with fires floating around it. Yep, they can be killed with the magic powder, and you're able to get a fairy out of it. You know why? Because I believe those floating those floating skulls on fire are also called fairies. So, after spreading magic powder on them, they become their original forms too. Which I find that actually very interesting, that not just humans and creatures get to be transformed when going to the Dark World, but also like fairies as well. Interesting lore. And I haven't even mentioned the fact that the coolest thing about this dungeon is that it actually shows a direct connection with Hyrule as well as the Dark Realm, where if you if you drain the river from up above, it actually drains the river in the Dark World as well. So whatever you do whatever happens over here, or whatever shape something is in, it definitely correlates with the real Hyrule as well. Again, very interesting. You know, just making some nice light connections while I just explore this water temple. And you know, for a water temple, this one's actually not that bad. But yeah, one of the main requirements for this one is if you haven't gotten the Zora Slippers at this point, you definitely need it, because you cannot even enter it if you don't have it. Which is kind of stupid that the game gate keeps you for 500 rupees at this point. But hey, what you gonna do? I mean, it's very easy to get rupees in this game anyways if you're very good at exploring and touching every chest. Alright, and after some light exploring and solving puzzles meant for 5-year-olds, we drop down. We actually get the big key over here. And that's the one thing that kind of bugs me a bit. It's like how many times, like in these older Zelda games, where the solution is you have to go back to a certain area and hit the mystical orb in order to change the flip panels, because my god is it very annoying when you solve all the baby puzzles and get to the area you were supposed to be, but guess what, you actually needed it in this particular way where the red orb is showing and not the blue one. It just really bugs me a bit. Especially when you have to backtrack through many different rooms in order to get there. But after that little rant, we actually go down here, deal with a bunch of nonsense, and after that nonsense, and after a bit of traveling, we make it to the final boss, and now that we have the Chi sword, it's actually so easy to beat. Well, especially if you use the spin attack. The spin attack does lots of damage to them. And with that, we get a new maiden and some more lore. Let's read. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. Triforce will grant the wishes of whoever touches it, as long as that person lives. That is why it was hidden in the Golden Land. Only a select few knew of its location, but at some point, that knowledge was lost. The person who rediscovered the Golden Land was Ganondorf, the evil thief. Luckily, he couldn't figure out how to return to the Light World. Well, remember that you have magical powers. which only the hero can make the most of. There are some other magical warping points like the one you saw on Death Mountain. By using them, you can go between the two worlds and find the evils hidden in the Dark World. You are the only one who can destroy Ganondorf, the thief, no, Ganon, the evil king of darkness. Understand? Yes, I do. So it seems at this point, it just comes to mind how the legend was lost about the Triforce in the Sacred Realm, but the person who rediscovered it and went forth on the legend was Ganondorf. But he wasn't 100% sure, or he didn't know that once touching it, he will become trapped. But because we are able to freely move between both the light and the dark world, it just proves that we are the hero who is able to defeat Ganon. Pretty interesting. Well, that's another dungeon done, and some more lore collected. The lore's shaping up to be pretty interesting. Let's make our way over here, and actually, we'll bring out the book again, and use it on this stone little monument. This is one thing that I think is kind of really dumb, is how you're kind of gatekept by these little medallions. I mean, it's really cool what they can do, especially since it's you're just learning ancient spells left behind. But it's kind of stupid that you have to actually use these in order to open up dungeons, especially since there's a bunch of them hidden around. I'll explain to it when I get to it. But in the meantime, let's go over to this little forest area over here. We'll talk to this guy who says he's trapped here, and all he wishes is just to play his flute that suspiciously looks like an ocarina for him. So we go back to the light world, head over to the top left over here, dig it up, return, play the ocarina for him, and then he dies. Yep, he dies and turns into a tree. Perhaps this is foreshadowing a certain species that's coming into a later date. Well, anyway, the reason I did this was because in order to get to another dungeon, you actually come into the village over here, you talk to the old man at the bar, explain to him that his son has died and turned into a tree, and then he tells you about the legend his son did with the bird in the statue. Or he doesn't tell you that, he just tells you about how he used to sing with the bird at the statue. So you play the ocarina in front of the statue, and then the statue becomes a real bird, and it's able to fast pass you to all these different locations. It's actually it's very interesting how this is how they chose to do fast travel, because you don't get it immediately, but you do get it in a very interesting way. But I will add, it is kind of stupid how one of the dungeons is locked behind this little fast travel point. It really shouldn't, but I guess it just kind of shows like you really have to do everything in this game in order to progress it. But with that out of the way, we travel back into the Dark World, and I'll choose to go to the one in the Lost Woods now, and deal with that one. Now, this is the one I was talking about where I really enjoyed the fact that it takes place in multiple rooms above ground, because you can't go to everywhere in this dungeon or fully explore it just by going through one set of rooms. You have to go in and out of these doors, in and out of the surface as well, and find new entry points into the dungeon to make some good progress. But if you know your way around, like I do since I already played this dungeon, it becomes pretty easy. So I'll just go straight to the highlights. And ha! I got the thing! I got the light bulb to do endless circles in a bit. Yes! I done it! And the only annoying thing about this dungeon is just the giant hands. It really feels like these guys were only created just to waste time. I mean, it's cool, like there's always a threat of imminent danger, but it just becomes more annoying than haunting kind of thing, you know? But it is necessary, because this is where the big key is. And with that, we can immediately go to the big chest over there and get the dungeon item there. Like I said, it's really cool, but once you know your way around, it kind of becomes just a big tedium kind of thing. Alright, and after making it back to the big chest, we reveal the fire rod. Nice, now we can just cast fire and whenever we want. It's actually a really cool item. Anyway, now that we have the fire rod, we can go over to these bones over here. We can light the bones on fire, and that's how we get access to the third part of this dungeon. Very cool, very interesting. Anyway, now we just make it through this, these hallways that you can't see because it's not by visible walls, but just because it's obscured by the foreground. Again, just more tedium junk. Then we deal with these pitfall room, where you have to press on the right pitfalls in order to make any progress. And the next pitfall always leads to the next, which is really interesting. Again, they really know how to make the best uses of all the mechanics in this game for dungeon layouts. You can really see them improve with their dungeon game, especially compared to the last one. We actually make it to the final boss, and this final boss is a giant moth. Now, this one actually looks the best. This is like the best looking boss in this whole game. But it is also the most annoying, just because of these stupid spike traps that whenever its stupid little beam hits one of them, I believe that's, or at least like, I'm not sure what triggers them to actually move, because I feel like it's completely random nonsense on which one moves. But with that, we defeat a boss, get another heart container, and we save another maiden. So we get another piece of lore and story. Let's read. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of evil. Do you know the prophecy of the Great Cataclysm? This is the way I heard it. If a person who has an evil heart gets the Triforce, a hero is destined to appear, and he alone must face the person who began the Great Cataclysm. If the evil one destroys the hero, nothing can save the world from his wicked reign. Only a person of the Knights of Hyrule, who protected the royalty of Hylia, can become the hero. You are of their bloodline, aren't you? Then you must rescue Zelda without fail. Do you understand? Yes, I do. So it seems like whenever an evil force goes after the Triforce, a hero is always destined to be born to try to stop him. However, it seems like the hero is connected directly to the bloodline of the Knights of Hyrule, which kind of limits a lot, especially since we heard on the last one, almost all of them got genocided. So literally, Link is getting pressure to actually continue the bloodline right after this too, in order to keep the legend going. So really, if Ganondorf really wants to win in the future, all he has to do is just kill this Link, and bam, the whole series is over. He would win at that point, and no more Knights of Hylia would be left alive at that point. Very interesting. So again, this whole thing just rides on the fact that it also another thing I noticed too is that they kind of foreshadow the fact that if Link does fall in this battle, Ganon will win, which is kind of a nice little foreshadow to like how the Ocarina of Time timeline splits off into 3 different directions. But it also shows in that part that, and that's where things get a little bit convoluted, because it's kind of hard to believe there's also like another knight of Hyrule that becomes a hero after Link dies. But then again, this Link does go on into 3 dungeons to prove that he is worthy of the Master Sword by collecting the virtues, or the pendants I should say. So I guess this whole thing could be reconciled. Again, just brainstorming. Very interesting stuff with this one. Alright, let's move on. That's the great thing about doing Let's Plays and doing all this stuff. I could share you guys my thoughts and my thought process on a whole bunch of Legend of Zelda stuff as well. And honestly, it's kind of cool to just let my thoughts just spill out into all this kind of stuff. And I'm curious if people will start interacting with it. We shall see. But in the meantime, let's move on to the next dungeon area. Well, anyway, after we do that, we can actually just go straight to the warp point right here. And we make it into the ice dungeon here. Oh boy, ice physics. But honestly, I feel like, regardless of everything, it's not that bad. And fun fact, with these duck creatures, if you have your hookshot equipped, the hookshot actually just one-shots them. So if you just get in a straight line against them, you can actually just beat them pretty easily, which is really cool. And now we deal with the classic enemy of Stalfos. These ones are more interesting than the last, or not interesting, it actually comes up with like an old mechanic of how in Twilight Princess there was those one Skeletonites where if you defeat them they just reanimate. But in order to truly kill them, all you have to do is just, when they're in their corpse form, you just place a bomb right over them. Pretty easy. And if we make it through here, we create this little path to drop down to. We find the big chest, and inside we find the blue mail. Yep, this is the armor upgrade we get. Now all the damage we take is reduced by half, I believe. And we get a cute little blue tunic. And no, this one does not allow us to breathe on the water, but it is a cool little blue tunic with a golden hat. I really enjoyed the golden hat on this one. But once you see the hat in color, it kind of reminds me a bit of like the sock hat that Double D used to wear in the show Ed and Eddie. Like, I can't help but notice that, you know? Alright, and after getting that, now we get to the most annoying part of this dungeon. Getting to the, dropping down these stupid little blocks here so that, we have some place to move it. What you want to do is that there's a little orb to the right over here. You gotta make sure you hit that in the right way. That way the path opens up over there. And what you actually want is the ones on the left side, which is very stupid because you have to do a lot of backtracking in order to get to that side of the room over there. Because if you try the one on the right, it'll literally be one short, which I find very stupid about this game. That's literally like the only bad thing about this dungeon. It's just that little thing right there. That kind of just ruins the dungeon. Like, I can deal with all the ice physics nonsense, but forcing me to backtrack just for that, it's so stupid. Alright, and after doing that, we can actually now go over to the left side over here, lift the giant boulder, and we make it to the final boss, which is pretty much like a frozen Krakow from Kirby. The only annoying part about this boss is that there's constantly ice falling from the sky, but it comes out in such an obvious pattern. The ice just kind of don't do anything, so you could just easily just spin attack them all and just kill them all that way. Very easy boss. Again, this dungeon would have been fine if it weren't for that one stupid room. But let's ignore that and listen to the lore now. Let's find out what they have to say in there now. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. They say that Hylian people controlled mysterious powers, as did the 7 wise men, but the blood of Hylia has become thin over time. We who carry the blood of the 7 wise men do not possess strong power anymore either. Our powers will increase if we mix the courage of the knights with the wisdom of the wise men. Only a short time remains until the gate at the castle linking the worlds opens completely. If you defeat Ganon, this world will vanish, and the Triforce will wait for a new holder. I believe in you. Good luck. Do you understand? Absolutely. It seems like this one is all concerned about like the lineage and how over time just the blood of Hylia that used to be so pure and magical and mysterious have become so thin over time that even the wise men's daughters, they all lack the same amount of magical potential their elders used to have. Which is very interesting because we can actually see that in play in a lot of Zelda games after this. It's a huge part of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom where the Master Sword just lost all of its power until it could find another pure source of energy. Kind of happened in Twilight Princess too, where there was literally no magic in the world anymore, and the Hylians no longer controlled any spells whatsoever anymore, especially since Link moved away and lived out in the woodlands. It's very interesting now that they pointed out in this game. You know what? Good lore. Good lore. It's very interesting like how really thought out the Legend of Zelda series can be once you like dive into the details like this. because a lot of what they're saying and what they do is actually like been premised. We can actually see and play in a lot of Zelda games. He says, I don't think we ever had the time to like think about it or point it out. But luckily that's why I'm here. To think about it so you guys don't have to. So that you guys can sound smart. But in the meantime, let's head over to the graveyard real quick. Because I know there's one item in here that I want to get. Because I do want to get all the items just so I can showcase them all. I probably won't get all the heart containers. Just because that's a little extra time and I'm only really focused on the lore and story. But just so we know a grand scope of all the potential things this Link could have, I definitely want to try to get all the items as we can. But before we make any more progress, we definitely should go over here in this part of the land. To where, if we go to where the old witch's house is in the Dark World, we head a little bit up, we just throw a random piece of object, the grass, the rocks, the skulls, any of those, into this little formation, and you kind of want to hit it towards the back of it, because I try hitting it towards the front of it sometimes and it wouldn't activate, so definitely try to hit it more towards the back of it, to where we get this very cool medallion that's 100% necessary in order to progress in this game. And it kind of just comes bullshit when you can't figure it out sometimes. But now that we have that stuff, we can now make our way over to the Dungeon 6 over here in the desert / swamplands. And this is what I found really cool, both in Link Between Worlds and this game, was that the desert got replaced with a swamp. I think it just kind of reflects the fact that Ganondorf really wanted the Gerudo Desert, the place where he was born and raised, to be more prosperous and have water for everybody. And I believe they also went with Swamp to reflect the fact that he's also still evil, and swamps are notorious for being the ones that have the most amount of, shall we say, dangerous creatures and obstacles in it for waters. I just find that very interesting. But after we retrieve what we can from that desert area over here, we come up here to the mountains, because we actually need one more spell real quick. And you know what, before I forget, since I'm up here, I'm going to open up Turtle Rock right now. I know I can't actually make any progress in it, but I do want to open it up, just for right now. Alright, and after we open it up, we can head back over into the Swamp / Misty area, after learning the new little spell that's up there in Death Mountain. And we use the Spell of Thunder to bring about the dungeon's entrance. Well, we come into here, and this is where we see the Lizalfos for the first time. Not the Lizalfos, the Wizzrobes for the first time. And these guys are just as annoying as ever. They're just as annoying as the ones back in Zelda 1. But the only thing weird about this one is just like, it just kind of feels like too much of the dungeon that's kind of based off, you know? Like, I could deal without the whole green and the 4 rooms gimmick kind of thing again. This one just feels too much of the same as the one that's based off in the Light World. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I'm not really feeling this dungeon. It's not really much to talk about it either. The only noteworthy thing is that you kind of do need one of the items I kind of missed out on in order to do this dungeon no damage list, but I'll get to that when I get to it. The one cool thing I will mention about this dungeon is how they kind of incorporated the lantern thing, but across 2 rooms and both sides of it, and that's the only cool thing I would say about this dungeon. Everything else is just kind of forgettable and unnecessary. Alrighty, and we make it back to over here to find the dungeon item, the Cane of Sand something. And this one's actually very cool and interesting. It creates one little tile block that you're able to push around and use. In later games, this whole gimmick got replaced by Majora's Mask Statue Knights, where you can create 4 things at once to hold your place. But this one creates one block to hold your place, or to hold a button down. And the next dungeon actually gets a chance to shine, but in this dungeon, it seems kind of pointless and dumb. That being said, it's still a really cool item. It's just kind of a shame that the dungeon that it's found in, it kind of gets overlooked a bit, you know? And we make it to the dungeon boss, which is just a giant eyeball with more little eyeballs in it. It kind of feels a bit of the repeat of the one in the water temple. Not in the water dungeon over there. But it's still unique enough. But we defeat it and we get more lore. Nice. Nice. Let's see what's in store for us now. Link, because of you, I can escape from the clutches of the evil monsters. Thank you. Ganon captured us because he couldn't break the seal of the wise man with his power alone. And then, using the wizard Agathim as his pawn, he drew us into the dark world. After cracking the seal with our powers, he sealed us inside of these crystals. He then gave us to his loyal monsters, but Ganon didn't plan on you getting this far. Now Princess Zelda is waiting for you inside of Turtle Rock. Please hurry. Do you understand? Yes, I do. So it just seems like Ganondorf just needed more power, and with his influence over the wizard, he was able to convince him to capture the sage's ancestors. Not ancestors. He was able to capture the wise man's daughters and use their power in order to break the seal, which I find very interesting because it just shows like even though Ganon is very powerful and all that, he's still not strong enough to conquer everything on his own. He still needs to rely on other people's power, which could be like a whole theme kind of thing. But for now, that's another dungeon done, and we move on to the last one. Alright, so now all that's left is the dungeon over at Turtle Rock, Ganon's Keep, and then the final battle. We're wrapping things up here today, boys. The one thing I will note though is, even though I have done the dungeon over at Turtle Rock already, the one thing I haven't done is Ganon's Castle, which is a whole other dungeon that is going to be interesting, and I never actually saw the final battle or what to do in that. But I have explored everything else and found all the necessary little things. Like this one, you may notice that I'm missing one item over here, and that's because if you go over here to the right side over here, and go into this small little cave over here, and you explode it with a bomb, you actually find the Ice Rod. It's a completely optional item that just freezes enemies. Actually really cool. And you'll see I'm still missing one other item. And that's because it's a bit overpowered, I should say. So for my regular playthrough and all that stuff, I probably wouldn't keep it there. And also you'll also notice I still haven't had the bug net. I just went, as because you all have to do is just talk to this sick kid, but I feel like I went to his house and nothing happened, so I decided just to ignore him at that point because I really didn't need fairies and all that, especially when you're on Nintendo Switch Online where you can just save state whenever you want. But with that out of the way, let's quickly go get that other item. Alright, and what you actually want to do for it is that you actually want to come over here. You have to make sure you have the hammer item equipped and have enough hearts and or potions in order to make it across all these spikes. Because once you do, you'll actually get a brand new blue cane, and what this does, it gives you invincibility frames. Yep, they have a whole item where it just gives you invincibility, but it is limited to how much magic you currently have. Actually pretty useful and kind of balanced. Alright, and with that out of the way, we can finally make it over to Turtle Rock. And this dungeon, like I said, utilizes the brand new item we have, the cane, in order to its full potential. Because now with this cane, we can actually make platforms that move on rails here in this dungeon. I find that really cool. The only issue with it is though, showing it to you guys is kind of boring, because now it's just you're just watching on rails. An on-rail kind of thing. Sure, it does get spiced up a little bit with these laser guys over here, but it does become a bit interesting. But the way to deal with these eyeballs sometimes that shoot lasers out is just make sure you're walking backwards. And in order to walk backwards, you can just charge up your sword, and while it's charging up, you can just walk backwards with it. Yep, and that's the only commentary I have left for this. So let's just quickly deal with all this stuff. And oh yeah, I also forgot in this dungeon they have a lot of creatures that resemble Mario characters too. They got Pokies, they got Chain Chomps. Wow, so I guess it's just not just limited to Link's Awakening where enemy designs are linked up to Mario characters. I always forgot about that. And like I said, the Mario universe is closer than we think to Zelda's universe. It could literally just be one hop away, and we could be in Hyrule or the Mushroom Kingdom. And that just fascinates me to no end. Hell, we see Mario and Link go-karting together, so we know at least at one point in time the hero Hyrule was racing against an Italian plumber in a Grand Prix, and I just find that hilarious to say. God, I just love talking about lore and semantics, especially when it comes to other franchises. Alright, and after obtaining the big key and doing with a lot of headaches, we actually make it over here to this big chest where we get the final shield upgrade, the Mirror Shield. And now we can reflect all the beam attacks that are being placed in our paths by those stupid eyes. Very cool. But I always feel like the Mirror Shield, especially in 2D Zeldas, have never been fully utilized. Because I feel like, so even in this game, the eyeballs just shoot the lasers like way too fast in order for you to get some real like movement on them. It was kind of cool in Ocarina, but even then it was still kind of meh. Or this path, I should say, of this dungeon actually leads you back to the world of light. I think all it does is just gives you another heart container you can get, but like I said, I really don't care about that at this point, since I already have the Cane of Invincibility. So let's just go back into the dungeon, and let's go face the final boss. But now, I will make a recommendation. Make sure you have plenty of magic before you go into this fight. Now, because the main issue with this boss is that it utilizes both fire and ice magic. So I do believe I don't know if you actually 100% need the ice rod in order to beat this guy. It might be tough, but I don't know if it's possible to do without it. But if you run out of magic and or don't have either of those rods in reserves, this fight could be definitely painful. But luckily, I have both of the rods. I have my powered up sword. Everything's all good here. And with that, we defeat the giant turtle. We defeat him in phase 2, where he just splits off into a weird centipede. And we get more lore. Let's see what this one has to say. I appreciate your coming so far to rescue, as I thought you are the legendary hero. I have felt this from the first time we met. Ganon is waiting inside of his tower to pass through the gate linking the two worlds. Once Ganon enters the light world, it is unlikely that anyone can stop him. But if he stays in his closed space of this world, you can find him wherever he runs. Now go to the Tower of Ganon. We will use our combined powers to break the barrier. Let's return peace to the country without fail. Do you understand? Absolutely. So it kind of seems like this whole Sacred Realm is kind of like an imprisoning thing for Ganon. Because it seems like the Sacred Realm is only limited to the land of Hyrule, and there's literally nothing else in the void for him here. But if he escapes into the light world, he can literally go wherever he wants. He can go to the Mushroom Kingdom if he wanted. So it's better for him to be stuck in the Sacred Realm, to where we can actually hunt him down a lot easier than whereas in the light world, he has the whole world to travel. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, that's some interesting lore there. Let's continue on, boys. Yep, and once we approach Ganon's castle, the 7 crystals that we collected, aka the 7 women that we collected, they used their power in order to break the barrier of Ganon's tower and open up its entrance to us. But before we go in there is one thing, or a couple of things I should do right before it, just to make sure I'm 100% prepared, because like I said, I have not explored Ganon's castle up until this point, and I have not faced the final boss whatsoever, or even seen what he does. So let's do a couple of due diligence things. First thing we want to do is actually get this Mega Bomb that's actually located to where our old house is, back in Hyrule. And this one's actually a lot nicer than the Mega Bomb in Link to the Link Between Worlds, because in this one at least you can carry it around with you and attack enemies and not have it blow up until you're ready. Whereas in Link Between Worlds, if one enemy hits it, it could explode. So now what we want to do is use to explode this wall over here at the Golden Temple and throw in our sword, our Master Sword, and this is how we actually get it to level up. Because now our sword is now golden instead of orange. And the fairy here is like really ugly, like notoriously ugly. I guess the beauty of fairies is tied into the well-being of the world, which is crazy when you say it out loud. But yeah, when you do that with the Master Sword and you do it with your bow and arrows, and it actually grants you silver arrows. Now this is actually got hinted at by like some random NPC in the world, and it actually took me a bit to figure out what to do. The only thing that like bothered me a little bit, it was just the Mega Bomb at that point, because it's cool that it's there, but at the same time, I feel like it should be there all the time, because I feel like I went to my house at certain instances and it wasn't there until it was ready. It's just kind of stupid in some sense. Well, either way, now we have all the upgrades, we're as ready as possible to go fight Ganon. So, we enter into Ganon's tower, and we begin our descents. And Ganon's castle, I will say this, it is designed to mess you up and make you feel a bit lost sometimes. Because not only are there floors that only light up once the lantern is lit up, not only are there teleporting paths to other rooms, but it just really feels like, you know, he designed this place just to prolong you for as long as you can, you know? Like, you can actually feel the time being wasted that Ganon is trying to do. Especially since you have to go back and defeat every single boss in the game. I'm pretty sure every single boss in the game. We start out by defeating the Temple 1 boss. And this is where you actually want to kind of be careful what I learned. Because I'm pretty sure what I learned in this game is that you can actually refight those bosses so many times if you do things out of order. Like it was kind of crazy back in Link 2, to where if you travel a few rooms away, then re-enter and enemies respawns and all that stuff. I think it also happens with bosses in this game. So if you don't know where you go, be prepared to fight many bosses over and over again. You know what game I was thinking of when that happened? It was happening in Link's Awakening. That happens so many times in Link's Awakening, it's unreal. But I will note that in that room with a whole bunch of warping pads, there is one hidden room that I did find. If you bomb that little area right there, in between these two little warps, you actually do find like a nice stock arcade of whole bunch of bombs and arrows here. So if you're definitely low on inventories and items, this is definitely the place to go for that. Just keep that in the back of your mind. But once we get the boss key, we can actually open up this big chest now and reveal the red mail, otherwise known as the red tunic. And now now our damage is reduced even more, and we get a cool little purple hat. This color scheme I'm definitely not a fan of. I think the purple hat just kind of ruins it a bit. But it is still nice to have reduced damage, especially if against a fight I have no idea what's coming. Anyway, now that we have the big key, we can make our way upstairs now, enter this locked door, deal with all this little nonsense of ricocheting spike balls. And look, we have to do what we have to do back in Dungeons 1, 2, 3, is deal with cannonballs line of fire. We haven't dealt with that in such a long time. And yeah, it really does feel like they're throwing everything at us right now. Like right here, we have to deal with like Dungeon 2's boss, and now we have to deal with this stupid invisible floor as we deal with stupid Skeletor Wizrobes. Again, they're really throwing everything at us, and it's kind of getting a bit annoying. Again, we already got the big key, so Ganon's really just throwing every minion and obstacle he can at us. Just trying to prolong us as much as he can. Which does make sense. This is his castle, so of course he's trying to get rid of us. Especially with this disappearing floor with the lantern puzzle. My god, he's sadistic. But he is nice enough to give us these little fairies that where, because they're trapped, you can actually just give them a nice little magic powder, and you can have some free fairies right before the fight. And I kind of just messed up and used them all. But hey, what can you do? Alright, and after dealing with the conveyor belt nonsense, we make it all the way up to floor 7, where we find Agnatha the wizard again. This time, he comes prepared with not just 1, but 3 clones of him. Ooh. Yeah, it's just as exciting and awesome as you think it is. But after defeating him, something really interesting happens. We see a little bat fly right out of him, and it flies away, which really begs the question: was he actually an ally of Ganon, or was he just possessed by him? It's very interesting. Maybe he was another wizard or wise man that entered the secret realm, and was able to keep his human form because he also found a moon pearl. And because of that, Ganon was able to use him as a way to capture everybody. Again, so many questions. He says, "I never imagined a boy like you could give me so much trouble. It's unbelievable that you defeated my alter ego, Agathim, the Dark Wizard, twice. But I will never give you the Triforce. I will destroy you and make my wish to conquer both light and dark worlds come true without delay." So yeah, that really is Ganon's wish, is just to conquer worlds. Again, very interesting. I could definitely use that for my Smash video. Ganon's wish is to conquer both light and dark worlds. However, it does seem like he still got trapped in the secret realm, so his wish didn't completely come true, but it did change the world around him. Again, very interesting stuff here. And this Ganondorf fight is actually one of the sickest ones in all the Zelda franchises, because this one actually utilizes the fact that Ganon is both a really strong fighter as well as a wizard to like the best extremes. He's able to toss around a giant spear and pitchfork, as well as uses his fire magic a lot. The only annoying part about this fight, I would say, is that he turns off the lights like a lot, and once he does that, you actually cannot hit him for it, which is really stupid. In fact, the best course of action is to reserve your magic to light up the lanterns, or hit him with your sword at first to stun him, then shoot him with your silver arrows. At least that's the best thing I found when fighting him. You do that a few times, and then Ganon will eventually go down. And once Ganon is defeated, a new room opens. It's a very pretty room that reminisces so much of Legend of Zelda 2, where Zelda stood there lying down. Because that was the very first time the Triforce did get completed within the Legend of Zelda series. And with that, we get this lore. Welcome, Link. I am the essence of the Triforce. The Triforce will grant the wishes in the heart and mind of the person who touches it. If a person touches it with a good heart, it will make his good wishes come true. If an evil-hearted person touches it, it grants his evil wishes. The stronger the wish, the more powerful the Triforce expression of that wish. Ganon's wish was to conquer the world. That wish changed the Golden Land to the Dark World. Ganon was building up his power where he could conquer the light world and make his wish come completely true. But now you have totally destroyed Ganon. His dark world will vanish. The Triforce is waiting for a new owner. Its golden power is in your hands. Now touch it with a wish in your heart. And he does. And Link, with his wish, was able to return the Royal King of Hyrule, the loyal sage who died in the chapel, Sahara Land's Upkeeping, the bully in the very beginning of the game finally makes a little friend. Your uncle is brought back to life as well. And that's about it. Oh, and the flute boy lives on again, I believe. I don't know, I'll look more into that, just to make sure if this flute boy and that other guy are actually one and the same. Because if they are the same, then we got some interesting overlaps that might be happening. Maybe if this kid dies, he actually turns into a tree as well. Ooh, so many theories can be popping from this kid. But yeah, that's Link Between Worlds. It's actually a really fun game. And like I said, the lore and story that prospers from this game, it's actually very interesting. It's actually really cool to see like how much of like each sentence and lore can actually be connected back to other Zeldas in the franchise. And once all that was said and done, the Master Sword goes back into its pedestal, sleeps again, forever. At least until the next game. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. Remember to leave a like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts about the Zelda lore in the description below. Your thoughts on the Zelda lore can actually influence my upcoming Legend of Zelda Link video. And whatever you say might get a little shout out for me if it's actually very interesting and thought-provoking, and it could change the whole way we see Link in the Legend of Zeldaverse. But in the meantime, that is all for this game. See you till the next one, which I believe is Ocarina of Time. Until then, I'm out. Peace.